in soon.
Carol, we're also looking for Karen Dobman and her husband, Matt.
I see Karen is signed in as an attendee,
Okay,
so I'm assuming they're together. Actually, I see Matt as well. You also have Ned Levine and Carter Wilkie.
great. Thank you.
All right, so everything's ready whenever you are.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We have present Wayne Montgomery, Rusty Cabot, Ellie Fields, Mike Steers, and Ed Mayato, as well as some of the other guests mentioned a second ago by Carol. Welcome, everybody. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the March 3rd meeting. Do I hear said motion?
Yeah, motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Guys, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't hear who made the motion or the second.
David made the motion, Mike Steer seconded. The approval was unanimous.
There
That
is
was
no
for the-
David.
I don't see David, yeah.
No, David's not there.
I heard him.
I thought I did too, but
I am here.
Yes.
Well, I don't know where he is because I can't see him or hear him. Huh. All right, well, let's recognize that we can hear the voice from beyond and David is in present.
Okay, great. That was the public session meeting, I guess. And then I would ask for the same motion for the executive session minutes of March 3rd.
I'll make that motion.
Second, Ellie makes a motion, Rusty seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
And do we need to make, and then, do I need to seal those minutes, Cheryl?
you need to seal the executive session from March 3rd.
3rd. Do I hear a motion to seal the executive session minutes from March 3rd?
I'll make
Rusty made the motion, Ellie seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. So then we have our new consent agenda, which I think is good. And I would leave it at that unless anyone has any comments they want to make on any of those items. Hearing none, I'll move on to review of correspondence.
We need
Yes.
a motion, to place the consent agenda on file.
Do I hear said motion?
Make that motion.
Ed made the motion, I think. Mike seconded, all in favor? Thank you. We have this grant from Rupert Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch. No, Rupert Friday. We have a letter from Joe about his change of firm. We have public notice from the Arkansas on a zoning thing.
Hey, Bill,
Yes,
Bill's change of firm, he needs you to sign
yeah, I have done
that
that.
release. So maybe we should get a motion from the group for you, authorizing you to sign and change the firm.
Okay, so we have in your packet, there's a note from Joe's, I think it's from Joe's old firm looking for a signature to move our files from the old firm to the new firm. I've signed it and I would send it with your approval. Do I hear said motion?
I'll make that motion.
Don't move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll send that to Joe or to whoever sent it to us. Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. We had a beginning balance of $3,345,947.82. Revenues from the tax returns, transfer tax returns, is $57,160.80. Interest earned $1,314.57. And other revenues, $125,375. $375,000. Does anybody know what else were R.
I don't.
Okay, I'll continue on. Monthly expenses were $9,966.65. That was overpayment and transfer tax. So our closing balance is $3,519,831.54. Last month, we had 9 transactions for a total tax paid of $209,720.00. I assume they're all correct. Cheryl?
Yes.
Bills. Beavis Law LLC, $9,677.50. WB Mason, $358.68. Cheryl Katie, $1,785. Mosaic Land Management, $1,835. Mosaic Land Management, $4,005. Amesbury Mowing, $4,870. U.S. Post Office, $76. Allied Group, $1,722.87. Lynn Brusso, $725. Helga Brothers, $1,010.
So I know Ned Levine's on here. He asked us to hold the Allied bill. That was the printing for the mailer. He's checking into it because what we were billed is different than the amount that he was, I guess, given originally.
Okay, so I would ask for a motion to pay the bills as presented, temporarily holding the Allied Group. If Ned hears something in the meantime before our next meeting, and it's, if the number's good or less, we could pay that. How's that sound?
I make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
One quick note, the Helga Brothers bill was for the infamous Lash project on Magnolia Way and Bramblewood, which has finally been done, so.
Cool.
Can you give me that number again, Wayne?
$1,010.
Thank you.
Okay, old business, public awareness. The internet hunting forums, Cheryl and I have been in contact with Roy. We haven't heard back from him yet on a sample. He has a sample property and some hunters, and he's trying to work up within some sort of software system what we're trying to get. You don't have an update on that, do you, Cheryl?
No.
Okay. Outreach projects update. The mailer went out, have been in everyone's mailbox by now. I've heard good feedback about it. I hope everyone else has as well. And I think it looked nice and read well. The survey is the proposed survey is in your packet, reflecting some of the input from some of the people listed on that cover letter, the email that went with the proposed survey. Any comments on the survey?
Survey comments coming back or our comments?
No, from
on-
us. It hasn't gone out yet, so.
That's fine.
Okay. So that's good.
Back to the mailer for a second. I
Yes,
don't know if we made a decision last month to just write a cover letter and send one of those to each person on that pays the transfer tax as a
we
sort of a
did.
thank you note, letting them know what they're supporting.
Yeah, we did do that, but we have not necessarily created a system to actually make it happen yet. So
Okay.
I'll work with Cheryl on that.
So is Ned on by any chance?
Yes.
Ned, do you have extra mailers that I can have?
We have, Cheryl, we have a few, and when I'm resolving the invoice matter, I will collect all of those that I can, and then the alternative would be to do a color copy on a nice piece of paper so we could execute Mike's idea without worrying about
Right.
inventory, and so I can
Okay.
get those from wherever.
So Mike, are you looking for this to go to everyone who pays the transfer tax or the
Yes,
buyer?
the buyer, not, I mean,
Okay,
so it would just follow the list that we review
okay,
on a monthly basis for the people that purchased property and paid the transfer tax.
okay. All right, I'll work on that letter. I'll send it to you, Bill.
Great, thanks. Okay, farmer recruiting, we have a lawyer representing a hemp farmer on our latest list of people interested in Little Compton property. We also have had some discussion with Carter and Rusty amongst the three of us or more about that whole situation. And as we discussed last month, our first priority or goal would be to see if what of our existing tenants or local farmers are interested in what our limited available property is. So that's where that stands. Wayne, have you heard, or Rusty, have you heard any more from Tom?
Yeah, I have heard a little bit from Tom. I think we need to put his case on the agenda for next week because it's going to require some discussion. He's, I don't know if he's on today. If he is,
No,
he can.
not currently.
Okay. So he's investigating some other opportunities besides the Ag Trust property, apparently, and said that he might be ready to make a decision in the fall. So I'm pressing him on that. That to me is way too far away. And we need to move forward with someone else if he's just going to keep sort of moving in several directions at the same time. So he came back with a proposal that he would accept or be willing to move forward with the Ag Trust, which includes a well and some electricity. So I don't know if we wanted to discuss that now or put it on the agenda for next month, but it would, to make him interested in those two properties, it would require us to make a commitment to water and electricity.
Okay, and based on the proposals that he's already given us, sort of roughly at least?
Yes.
So that's voting on money, and I also think we want to talk to the neighborhood too. So, but I didn't want to talk to the neighborhood until we knew roughly what kind of farming we were talking about. So, given those things, let's put it on for next month. It doesn't sound like he's in a hurry. And since we'll be voting money, or maybe voting money, that's what we need to do. So let's make note of that, Cheryl. And I think that's
Should
that.
we-
Wait, go. Yes.
I was just going to say, should we try to we're going to be considering drilling a well. Should somebody give us a ballpark on that if we're going to consider voting on it next month?
Yeah, I just did one, so I've got a
Oh,
pretty good handle
okay.
on how much that could potentially cost. I'll get a little bit more clarity from Tom. He sent me a long email, which I'm happy to share with the board if that's where he really wants to go. But I do think it requires a little bit of time for everyone to absorb what he's asking for and what he sort of has laid out for his way forward if he wants to work those properties. So, next month would be great, in my opinion. And we can throw out some rough orders of magnitude of money, and also get him to pony up whether or not he thinks there's grant money out there. And my personal opinion is everybody else can cogitate on this over the next month, but if he does want these things and there's grant money, we should have him write the grants or the application for the grants to do some of that work. But, you know, that notwithstanding, we're nowhere closer to having someone work that property right now.
Okay. You heard anything from Craig about Amesbury Lane, Wayne?
Yeah, he's interested in it, and him and I are gonna go over there some Sunday and see if we can move a few stones. And if we can, then maybe the trust would be in line to hire somebody to remove some stones. We want to get an idea of just how big they are, and I think we can do that. He's gonna volunteer his time. We'll spend maybe an hour over there poking around with a backhoe and see what we come up with. But he is interested, and he does want to do something with it.
Okay. Well, we'll let that progress then. Signage, we are working on we have proposals for signs. Really nice sign here. I don't know if really can't see it this very, very well here. This is a mock-up of the sign that we're proposing. Ned and John Gwynn and the folks who worked on the mailer are working on signage for Peckham. They didn't have the real copy available for this month. They will for next. And I think it looks really nice. And then I think public access is also related to Peckham. That's our first goal here, is to get this little trail loop going and the signage and the parking and so on. There's more on that under stewardship. So moving on to stewardship. First item is the contract to stewardship service update from Carol. I would give you the floor, Carol. I would say that I looked at your summary and I think we're doing overall pretty well. Like if you look at the percentages of BDRs and that are either done in the works or contracted and so on, you're doing pretty well. And I think we need to stay aware of our upcoming deadline to figure out the next version of how we get these services done. And but it's really encouraging and we're in good shape, and I would turn it over to you with that.
I think you provided a pretty solid summary of everything presented. If folks haven't had a chance to read, it kind of boils down to exactly what Bill said. We've been a little bit slower than expected, but we're making progress. We're getting there. We should be able to do what I set out to do under the contract 2017, if not as fast as we hoped. But that still leaves the need to sort of plan for some other things going forward as you acquire new acquisitions and as monitoring both grows in scope and continues to be a responsibility you have every year. So we can talk about that. The only thing I think that I really needed some direction on from you all is management plans. When we first started out, we sort of said, okay, we'll take a look at fee-owned lands and come up with management, come up with baselines for all of the fee-owned lands, and then kind of lay some management guidelines alongside that. Now, Wayne and Rusty have been working hard on agricultural properties, which is great. We've talked about some of the sort of overarching issues around hunting that'll apply more broadly. But my question is how you want to sort of tackle that deliverable. And I'm wondering if, given kind of all the things that are evolving now, if it wouldn't make the most sense, or my time wouldn't be of the most use by providing you a sort of a menu of sorts and a template that then you could apply to individual properties. It's hard for me to say, here's what should be done. I mean, we kind of had a little bit of that. back and forth. It's really your decision-making to decide on the values that drive management for any given piece of land. So I can provide sort of some of the considerations that would then allow you to go down and check which ones apply to which property or how you want to handle them. I'm just trying to think of something that will sort of help structurally with the streamlining the decision-making process or making sure you have the information that you want to make decisions on.
Right.
While
I
still
think
trying to
that-
get some of this done for you.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a challenge, and I think the challenges are that, I mean, the ag property is the ag property, the 160 something acres of stuff that's leased and active in ag. But then there's even challenges within that, in that if you take Costa, for instance, you know, the ag is only on roughly a third of the property. So then you have all that wet, well, mix of dry and wet woodlands to the west. So I think the management plan has to reflect the environment that it manages. But at the same time, those environments are mixed on given parcels. And therefore the uses within those parcels are mixed as well. So maybe, as you say, if we have a menu to choose from and for a given property, check as many of the boxes that apply and go from there as a guideline, as a starting point to draft something on a per property basis. Maybe that is the way to go. So you'd have I think the ag work that Wayne and Rusty did is good, a good starting point for ag land. But then properties that have both, we need woodland that's available for hunting. We need wetland. We need, mostly those are our mixes. So if we think of those three things as environments that need management that we are most commonly managing, and then we identify which properties contain those environments, maybe that's a way to start.
It feels to me like that might be the most efficient way to lay out sort of a hit list, and then you can address every property individually, certainly, but you could say, it has wetland forests. Let's look at what we should be considering there. It has, potential for hunting. Do we want that or not? It has
Right.
Something that you could just would kind of help you fill out a template a little bit more than having to retalk the entire thing with each new property.
Yeah, well, that'd be useful if you could provide that menu, that outline, and then I think it has to go to a stewardship group that identifies which properties, which menu items apply to which properties, and then start working on individual plans from that. So that'd be great.
I think that would be the best approach.
Okay. I agree. So would the creation of that menu, that potential outline, fall under the existing management plan budget?
I think it absolutely could. I think it's different than what what I originally proposed and envisioned. I sort of thought that it would be a little bit more straightforward to lay management guidelines out for each property, but you should be more engaged, which obviously takes more time on your part and for me to help field that. So I'd have to give it a little more thought, but it feels to me like it just a slight shift in the focus to spend the time sort of creating this thing that could be more broadly applied. And I can certainly apply it to pre-existing properties, but it would also be a resource that you could use going forward to apply to, properties you've acquired since 2017.
Right. So if you could think about the creation of that, or what it would take for the creation of that in the context of our current surplus, if you will, management budget, which is in your summary here, I could refer to, which is $13,790. Tell us how much of that you might want to apply towards what we've just discussed, and what that equates to in terms of not individual, in terms of individual management plans that we're going to forego at this moment.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me give that some thought and I'll come back and give you some.
Great. Thank you. Okay. The Peckham parking lot, Pine Bridge Realty thing, Mike's proposal is in here, which I'm slightly confused on. It says, we're going to remove the stone wall at Willow Ave. We're going to rebuild 60 feet at Peckham Road. I assume that's using the stone wall from Willow Ave. The stone, I mean. And then we're going to, I'm not sure what the gravel reference is here in this proposal from Mike. Is he saying that? So we had Jesse dig a trench and put gravel in as a foundation for the initial stone wall idea. And since then, we've thought the parking lot should get a little bigger. Is Mike talking about digging it, just expanding that trench and gravel? Is that what you think this is, Wayne? Or
Rusty and I met with him, but Rusty went over the proposal with him, so maybe he could speak more on that than I can.
Yeah, we had discussed when he and Wayne and I were together, the fact that the parking lot was a little small there at Peckham. So we didn't ask him specifically for this, but because we were talking about it, I think he added it in. And I think this reference specifically expanding the parking lot.
Oh, okay. I got you. So we're going to expand the gravel surface.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if we choose not to do that, we can, take that out of what we actually give them as a scope of work.
Right. I think
there's Wayne and I didn't specifically ask him for that. We were just discussing it in passing.
Right. Okay. So I think there's been a couple of ideas there. We could expand the area enclosed by the wall, but keep the gravel the same size and have the grass as essentially initial overflow kind of parking. Or we can make it bigger. I don't know. How much bigger are we talking? Do you know?
Well, again, we didn't really discuss it. So, we were just more or less talking about the fact that it was a little bit too small to get our trucks in there easily. So we'd probably end up making it maybe 25 to 35% bigger.
Right. To me, that's fine. It makes perfect sense. So what I would ask for is a motion to approve this proposal of $4,900 for removal of the stone wall at Willow Ave, moving it to Peckham, building the stone wall there around the expanded parking area and the expanded gravel surface at that location. Do I hear that motion?
Don't move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So Rusty, will you continue to work with Mike on this?
I'll do that. Yes.
Thank you.
So then there's a second quote from Helger to clean up after Mike takes the stones out along Willow Avenue.
No. What Helgers are gonna do is they're working on the inside, from the inside of the wall to the cornfield. The work that they did before, they cut down some trees, cleaned the brush, and they left the stumps, which they were supposed to. Seeing how that was their job, I got a price from them to finish their job. Now Mike's job is from the stone wall to the road. And his job doesn't include grading, so that in the minutes here, it says stone wall removal and grading. It includes rough grading. If we have to bring in more material, then that's going to be a different price. And we talked about that, and we talked about that we have material up at the Almy farm that we could shift down to there if there was any low areas from taking out the wall and whatnot.
I just think that if Helger is going to be there to pull out the stumps and
No,
do the
no.
grading to the cornfield,
You
the
don't-
wall's gonna go away. That's the time to finish it. So either we should go to Helger and ask them,
You don't understand, Mike. The Helgers, they don't want stone wall. Mike does.
no, I understand that. So Mike's gonna take the wall that's there and move it up to Peckham's, right?
And whatever's left over, he's figured in his time and effort and whatnot, he's gonna take for himself. Now, the Helgers, they don't deal in stone walls. Mike does, and Mike's gonna build the wall for us, and Mike's gonna clean up the wall. The only reason I did it in two parts was because the Helgers started on this project, and I like to have somebody, if they started, to finish what their end of it was.
Right, but I think what Mike is saying, Wayne, is that
I know what
once,
he's saying.
but once Mike is through and the stone is out of there, then the Helgers can grade everything. Or
But
not.
that's well, if you want to do it that way, that's fine, but my theory is if a guy starts a job, he should be able to finish it. And that's what I'm doing. The Helgers started inside the wall, let them finish it. Mike's got from the wall out, let him finish that. That's the only thing that, the only we're seeing.
Yeah, that's fine, but if the grading from the wall out needs more material, that's not under Mike's purview. The Helgers might be moving material anyway, right? So.
Yeah, well, it could be, but let's see what
I think,
happens.
yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll do it the way you mentioned, but I think we just need to be prepared to say to the Helgers, maybe help us
I
out
agree.
on this.
But Rusty and I already talked to Mike about
How to leave it.
if he had to bring in more to have it like two separate bids, so that's what he did. But we can whenever we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. PT Marble, there's a bunch of correspondence here. John Berg has very kindly taken that on and identified what needs to be done and is working with Lynn and Jesse on that work. I don't know if it started yet or not. John, are you on and has it?
He's not on.
Okay. I don't think it has. I mean, Lynn's done some work, but I don't think it's all done yet. But anyway, that's what that is. It's work that needs to be done. SPA is on board. You see the correspondence. The survey, Apfel Simon, that's the plan in our packet, right, Mike?
yes, it is.
Yeah. Looks just like a survey.
And so I guess the month before we'd had an aerial from when Carol was there. And so this sort of, it's helpful to look at both only because the aerial shows where the actual house is.
I see.
Surveys. And so the only question I had was the lawn area and the footpath, was part of the conserved area. And so who maintains that and is that everybody on board with how that portion of the property is used? Yes, Carol.
I just wanted to remind you that one of the reasons that you got the survey was because it wasn't entirely clear that the driveway and new lawn expansion that had been done was whether it was over the line or not. So this
Right.
clarifies that it is not. So the other thing that is still needed here is a BDR on this property. And the new owners are very engaged and interested. And so it just seemed like the time to get everything sort of cleaned up and cleared up with them at once and get off on the right foot. So far, I think they've only talked to me, but if somebody wanted to talk with them about the things you're suggesting, Mike, it'd be great to be in that loop so the BDR can show everything cleanly.
Okay. I have never been to that property. Is anyone else familiar with it? So I'll make a visit.
We'll, if you want, we could go together because
Okay,
we'll be needing to reach out to them anyway.
Okay, so that's a plan to keep working it, right?
yep.
Okay. Mittendorf, there's a bunch of correspondence in here. Fundamentally, what they want to do here, there's a little rectangle of land inside the fence associated with the windmill house. That owned by Charlotte Duhamel and her husband. But that little square of land that's enclosed by a fence on their side is actually belongs to the Mittendorfs. The Mittendorfs want to sell that to Charlotte and her husband. It's encumbered by our easement. They understand that. And they have no problem with that. There's a couple of complications. One being no subdivision is allowed. And the second being we have an easement partner in NRCS on that property. In the past with this sort of thing, particularly at Fred Bissinger's place, we said when this land was going to be reattached to an existing lot, it wasn't a subdivision, which at the time I disagreed with. But anyway, so we've finessed that issue before. I've spoken with Joe Bichond at NRCS. He says there is a process it would essentially, we're not really appending the easement, but it would be involved in a similar process where we have to apply to the National NRCS Stewardship Committee and ask them for permission to do this. So I have asked Franny Mittendorf and Ray Holland, who's working for her, to provide a plan of a before and after. Well, the before is what we have, but what they're proposing, and then we can submit that to NRCS. And that would all be, of course, pending that this group doesn't object to the whole idea.
Isn't
So-
there an existing lease agreement with the Mittendorfs that went with the mill house?
Yeah, it's existing, but it's pretty informal. It's like a letter every year that says you can park your car in my grass kind of thing.
Well, I only mention it because it might provide a framework for NRCS of something that has existed as access to that back property there. And for some reason, I thought that either when they went in for their special use permit or whatever, that there was a plan that showed and defined exactly where it was and where the driveway
Yes.
was. So
That's
Then
a good point. What this proposed sale does essentially is move the lot line to recognize what actually happens. And that what actually happens is reflected in this yearly ongoing lease. Mike, you're correct. So if this group has no objection to this proposal, then I would work with the respective parties and NRCS and I think it helps for everyone if we say, and I guess thinking it through out loud here, I should ask for a resolution saying we don't object to this sale and movement of the line if we don't object. And we can take all that as a package to NRCS.
I think it's also would be helpful to have Carol do one of her Google shots of exactly what's there now, because then it very clearly shows the area that we're talking about, how it's being used.
Yeah, we have that. That actually exists.
Okay.
The other problem with the lot line as it currently exists is the Duhamel garage is on and slightly over the line onto Mittendorf property.
Yes.
This would fix that as well. So do I hear a motion that the Little Compton Ag Trust Board or trust members are in support of the proposed sale and lot line move.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Second,
the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So I'll report on that progress. It's not going to be a quick process. Okay, Wislocky Stewardship Boundaries. Karen is here. I don't know if Matt is here. I'll ask Karen to come in, and before she speaks, I would say to this group, I got an email from Karen at 20 minutes before this meeting. And well, rather than read the email, I'd ask Karen to come in and tell us what she wants from us. Hi, Karen.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I've owned the property at 12 south of the Commons, which includes the conservation land at 10 south of the Commons, which runs behind our house, behind the Boddington properties. And, I was very clear in trying to understand what I could do with the land before I purchased the house. I obviously have a profession in landscape architecture and horticulture. I grew up in Little Compton. I wanted land and I wanted to be able to build gardens, plant trees, things like that. And I've just reached one frustration after another, not being able to access the land. I will leave the harassment, the belittling and all of that out of it, but I really would like the help of this group to tell me what my options are for the right of way of the property, which is basically blocked to me, but able for my neighbors to access and use for their business and for other, accessing their property, accessing their animals. I would like to put a fence up. I need to know if that is legal. I would like to know who's supposed to be accessing the property. I was always told that the right of way was for emergency vehicles to be able to put out fires on 10 south of the Commons. It was blocked and I'm frustrated and I don't know what to do. I don't have $30,000 to spend on a fence that's going to be torn down because of some argument between neighbors. So I ask you what I can do and how I can move forward to use the land the way that I intended to use it.
Well, one thing we have done is there's the right of way language is pretty simple. It's like a page and a half. I have sent that to you. So the deed or the language that defines the right of way is in your possession. Seems to me the next step, again, this is private property. The right of way runs over your neighbor's private property back onto your property. And what's needed is communication to the neighbor that this is when I want to access it and use the right of way. And for, obviously you have the right to use it. It seems to me, and the last time I read it, which was a year ago or more, that's what it is. It's a right of way for your use as well as our use for stewardship purposes.
But not for their use.
I don't think it excludes them. It's their property. It's not like they can't go on it.
The turnaround on 10 south of the Commons.
No, that I think that's on your land. That's for your use, I would think.
So is there any opportunity to just close this up and access the land another way? Does this opening between the two properties have to stay? Can it be resurveyed? Can it be reboundaried? Can it be, we just spent money to move a stone wall so that we could have access. Maybe we close it up. I don't know.
Sure, if you want to put a stone wall or fence across the right of way on your property, that's your right.
As long as the town can access with fire trucks or whatever in some other way.
I don't know that it has anything to do with town access. there has access to do, we have access as the Ag Trust for stewardship purposes, but if we have other access, we're happy. Which we do. I mean, we can go through your house, we can go through Boddington's. There's an opening in the wall there, actually. I've gone through there with haying equipment in years past. So there's other ways to get there.
But I think that I'll look at a comment just from a subdivision standpoint. The cul-de-sac that's drawn there had to have been part of a subdivision when they created these other lots. And so the rights to use that right of way should be defined with the deeds of those properties.
You mean like the Duhamel lot?
Well, you know, from Stancy's lot, you know, she goes in her way, but there's a 20-foot right of way that wraps around Stancy's house. And then there's a 30-foot right of way that goes up to the cul-de-sac. And it shouldn't be undefined in the deeds as to who has the right to use these rights of way and who doesn't.
So that's what you're pointing out, is that if Karen, we don't want to encourage Karen to block off the right of way because it's unusable to her if other people have rights to use it.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I think
So I mean,
that
I'm just looking at, you know, lot 14-3. Lot 14 was, you know, this is the third subdivision, right, of lot 14. So there's got to be some documented history here with regard to these subdivisions, and we don't want to encourage anybody to do anything that's not part of the deeds.
okay. So I'm pretty sure that we specifically have a right to use that right of way for stewardship.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate for us to have Joe Marion lay out in detail for us and Karen's benefit who has the right to use that right of way and under what circumstances, including if there's any neighbors, Stancy or whomever else, whether it's public, whether it's fire truck, and any of those aspects of the question, and share that with Karen, and as a way to try to move this forward. If it sounds to me like the right of way is the biggest point of contention at the moment. Is that accurate, Karen?
I mean, I would like to run a fence down the entire property line. The other sides of the property have stone walls or split rail fences with a few gaps, but this entire side is open. You know, I've talked with people about renting the land, renting the barn, and they've all been chased away. I had a relationship with NRCS, and some of the things that they've asked me to do, you know, planting a wildlife border, planting a wildlife screen along that edge. I just can't do it if someone's going to run over it with their ATV and their tractor anytime I do work. I cannot like spend money to have it wasted by, you know, stupidity.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would like a fence down that entire line. From the survey marks and what I know of surveying, it's, you know, noted as a property boundary. And, you know, I want to know if I can have a gate there. And if we want to put a sign on it that says there's access for Little Compton Agricultural Trust, that's great. Let's put a sign on it. But I have to be able to sort of close it off to do any of the work that I need to do to move the project forward.
Okay, so can I get a motion for us to do the right-of-way research for our own benefit, for future access for stewardship, and to share with Karen for her greater understanding of the use and rights associated with right-of-way? Do I hear that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Karen, we're gonna, we will do that promptly. We'll share that information with you. And then as far as,
I would guess that Johanna McKenzie would have some opinions about that because she has an understanding of how her family put the property into agricultural trust. So I believe that she would have some opinions, and I hope that in the end those match, but that could be a future problem if your conclusions about the use don't match what her family put forth.
well, I don't think it's not up to a memory kind of thing. It's the documents say what the documents say at this point. And that's not going to change based on my understanding of them or Joanna's memory. It's going to be based on a legal opinion of those documents. And that's the way it is. That's just the way it is.
And remember, we've had this property recently surveyed. And
I have too. I've spent $1,500 several occasions, and the stakes have all been pulled out.
yes, but I sympathize with that, but the deed research of the surveyor will be a big help to what we're trying to define here and what the rights are, because deeds have all been identified.
So, and then as far as, your judgment about whether or not a fence there is safer, I don't know how to address that. I think if I were in your position, I would document my fence and, hold anybody or anything that does damage to it accountable. And I think that's your option. But we'd like to help you understand the rights of way and the use of it, and anything else we can do to help you understand those things, we'd like to do. If you have another suggestion, please make it. We can't obviously guard the fence 24 hours a day.
No, I understand that. No, I appreciate your help in understanding the usage of the right of way, what it was meant for, what it's supposed to do. If you're telling me that the marks on the boundary, that's the property line, and that sort of the access to the land is not supposed to sort of cross back into the other property, then then I can put a fence up. Right now there's sort of a circuit around the house and the barn that I don't have access to. So if that's not the intention, and if there can be a fence there, then great, tell me that. I will put a fence up of some sort that I can afford right now and make it better over time. If there can be a gate, tell me I can have a gate. And I just want to live my life and do what I wanted to do, which was all in compliance with agricultural conservancy, rules and stuff we had talked about with meadows and orchards and gardens and trees.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that right away stuff. While we have you here, what do you think about, do you think you're going to want any mowing help this year?
I really would like an orchard, and I'd really like to spend money on the agricultural conservancy land. I cannot do that until people with four-wheelers and other vehicles are not allowed on my property. So yeah, you're gonna have to keep maintaining it until I can maintain it myself, and I can plant the things I want to plant that don't need to be mowed every year. I'm at an absolute standstill.
Okay, well, you and I will talk about that as the season gets further along, and maybe as we get
I appreciate the assistance of the mowing last year. I think it's wonderful. It's not my goal to mow it every year. I realize that the rose bushes have got out of control, but I can't, the plans that you and I have talked about, I cannot implement if I think that it's going to be destroyed.
I appreciate that.
I'd like to say something. Karen, you don't know me. I'm Wayne Montgomery. I do a lot with the stewardship on the trust, but if you read your deed, it says you have to mow it annually. So just, keep that in mind if you would.
I believe it says it has to be managed.
Well, I think it says a minimum of annual mowing. It does definitely say that. That language is clearly in there. It barring other agricultural use or in conjunction with it. So let me get this information on the right of way, and we'll compare notes on both those things. How about that?
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time for coming tonight. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Acquisition. Helger Bento Tree Farm. I don't know where, I haven't heard from Ray on that. That's an executive. Nothing on Driver, Cotta West, Ryan, Levine, Rice. You don't have anything on Rice, do you, Rusty?
No.
I know Jack is in Sue's. I know Joe's been talking to them. I don't know exactly where he stands on it, but he's worked on some language and documentation. Ernest Manchester, should we wait for executive on that, Wayne?
Yes.
Okay, nothing on Ratcliffe. Nelson, you may, if any of you are Historical Society members, you might have gotten a letter this week saying, please come to a special meeting of the Historical Society membership to vote on approval of the sale as recommended by the Historical Society Board of our 75% remainder interest in the Nelson Farm to the Ag Trust. So that meeting is scheduled for the 21st. We have final purchase and sale and title work all lined up for once the membership says yes. That documentation is contingent on fundraising. We have made a commitment of funds in our group, and once we have the P&S signed, we're going to go do private fundraising. So we hope the thing moves quickly through the spring and into the summer. So it's very encouraging, actually, that we're at this point with the Historical Society. Booth. Oh, Booth, yeah. I talked to, well, we're on the state's pace on that, basically. There was Andrew Rigo, who was a potential buyer of it, sweetened his offer, which created a flurry of communication about whether the state was actually committed or not. The state recommitted to both Alan and me, and that's where that stands. So the state needs to do some work there. Westport Land Trust, we made a board resolution last month about accepting that donation. I'm not sure where it stands. Do you know, Ned?
Wait 1 sec. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I do know where it stands. We have to get, Joe is going to get the necessary documents to Ross. That's what I recall from last month. And I don't believe Ross has gotten anything.
Okay, well, I got to get with Joe on a bunch of stuff, so I'll put that on the list.
Yeah, that will end it, Bill. It'll be done as soon as he gets that.
Okay. New business. Carter. Is that a Rusty item?
It is, yeah, there's nothing new there.
Okay. The
Although,
second new,
just a note.
go ahead.
It's not lot 21. It's just 23, 24-1 and 24-2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, David asked for the interface with local lawyers and real estate agents. He and I talked about it. There's some homework to do on our part before we discuss it in the meeting. So we're gonna table that for tonight. John Berg is not here unless he's shown up. I don't see him.
He's not here.
We discussed PT Marvel anyway, he's doing a great job there and quite a bit of work. No new applications. So that brings us to the end of our public session agenda. Do I hear a motion to exit our public session and enter our executive session?
I'll make that motion.
It's
Second.
gonna take me a minute, guys.
All in favor? Aye. So thank you, Anya
Aye.
and Karen for coming and Matt. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
That's it.
I'm sending you a link. Just give me a minute.
It's getting close to my bedtime.
I know. Mine too. this back on. Hi, Carol, we're coming back.
Okay.
Good at this.
Thursday.
Just think of all the second graders that are better at this than us.
Maybe even first graders.
Okay, we have a quorum. And I would ask for a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session meeting just held.
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion.
Ed seconded. Wayne made the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. And I need a motion to exit public session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
You're welcome.